In Karnataka, when you talk about sarees, people say Ilkal sari or Mysore sari. They don't talk about any other weaves. So I came across all these rural weaves which are lost. There is no documentation, there is no details on any of the farmers' weave or the rural weaves. So there is no mention of it. Reviving the 10th century, 12th century weaves, and also there were many skilled artisans who were there but didn't have work. So that's where to put them together, Punarjeevana was started. I'm Dr. Hemalatha. I was working in US when I was doing research on natural dye. So when I came back to Karnataka, when I travelled across villages, because I went in the search of natural dye, but I got into all these lost weaves and other things. So I came across all these rural weaves which are lost. So I got like many names like Hubli, Gomitene, Gadi Dadi, Sudakaddi, Dotra, etc. etc. But I got to see those samples. Only sample which I did not see was Patteda Anchu. Everyone kept telling me stories, and that caught my curious mind of what is it. When I started looking for Patteda Anchu as details, whether it's the sample or the story, it took me 2 years to get to that. So once we did the sampling, it took me like almost to get a prototype, it took me like almost a year. So one of our first weave which we revived was Patteda Anchu, and this is how the traditional Patteda Anchu look like, the yellow and the red. So that's how the Lingayat girl would get this as a gift during the wedding, sign of blessing which they would get. And the sari would have a broad border with a line here which is patta, and there is a symbolic line which is there, and this checks is basically Anchu, which is symbolizing togetherness. That's where the checks comes in. These sarees were worn by farmers and locals wearing on their day-to-day wear. So they are in coarse count, like 20s and 40s count. So it's very easy to wash and wear. North Karnataka usually has two pallus, short and long. So that's the concept which I thought I'll take, and that's where I made something called as two pallu, formal and casual. So formal pallu is more like strips of material, like plain strips. The casual will be more colorful. So that's what I tried to do. So this is our latest revival called as Aane Hejje. So Aane Hejje is basically head of elephant, feet of elephant. And we've done it in such a way in this weave that when you reverse, the color also changes in this weave, and the sari has two pallus. So it actually in one sari you have a second sari free. In this sari we are doing little finer count. So we started with a thicker count, 20s and 40s. A lot of women would say it's very heavy. So we thought let's do something which is lighter. So now we are doing in 100. So we've kept our border thick, but our body is very light in this. In 2015 we did our first weave, Patteda Anchu, and today we have revived more than 43 weaves.
So, it's very easy for people to become designers overnight by sitting somewhere with craftspeople and saying, okay, change this color, this border. And it's just kind of changing a layout. You have to also know about the yarn count, the kind of what goes into the technique of it. What are the possibilities? Because unless you know the skill in detail, you can't really design. Then you ask a craftsperson to do something that's impossible because it's not part of the way the technique is operated for making that particular item.
Gajendragarh, you have lot of weavers who would weave handloom weaving. Slowly and steadily it was like gone. Basically I thought all the weavers want work, giving them work, it's like a cause and things like that. But I did not foresee there are a lot of issues which are there. So they found me being more an outsider. So it was difficult. I was very clear on one thing is I didn't want to do research which just stays in books. I wanted to do something which would be used in the society and it can be used in better format. So when I started this whole project of natural dye, there were processes which I could help and tell the dyer that you can do all these changes. But when the weave happened, like I found out the weaves are lost, but then there is no way to tell the weaver that you continue doing this because they didn't have loom, they didn't have yarn, and there was no one who would support them for long. The technicals what I learned growing up as a designer or a textile technologist and explaining to them, it's very difficult. So for me to understand their technical details, then to tell them back what I am expecting, so that was like a new learning altogether. So I would sit with them, do every bit of the steps. All the steps I had to break down. I cannot simply say, oh, do it. Today I can do that. After so many years I can do that. But at first steps I couldn't do that. We started with one weaver, and when we finished our 100 sarees and I sold it in 2 days, when I called up and I said I've sold, we have to do more, that's where I think the whole faith and the trust increased a bit and more people wanted to join us.
ಫಸ್ಟಿಗೆ ಹೇಮಲತಾ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅವರು ಬಂದಾಗ ನನ್ನ ಕಡೆ 2 ಮಗ್ಗ ಇದ್ದವು ರೀ. 2 ಮಗ್ಗಲಿದ್ದ ಹಿಡಿದು ಇವತ್ತಿಗೆ 14 ಮಗ್ಗಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ರೆಡಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ.
ಎಷ್ಟು ಖುಷಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊತ ಹೋದ್ವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ನೇಯ್ಬೇಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಖುಷಿನೇ ರೀ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಇನ್ನಿಟ್ಟು ನೇಯ್ಬೇಕು, ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಉದ್ದೇಶ.
We had more of older people, like 45, 50, 60 were weaving. So now that generation goes away, again a challenge. So that's where I realized next generation has to be prepared. So that's where we started training women who didn't have background of weaving. So they are doing good, reasonably good. So they are able to educate their children, fund their other things at home and things like that. People who had like broken house, smaller houses, they have made pakka makan and they've married their children, like really big functions and things like that. They're proud of what is happening. Earlier they just made the product and it was gone. Now they get to wear, they get to see who is wearing and they get to interact with people. So that's where I can see a confidence change. I can see the trust building in me, and also they know there is something nice coming. They just don't want to leave everything and go.
ಬೇರೆ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಲೂಮ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗಿದೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಆದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಲೂಮ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ. ನಮಗೆ
Any challenges, for example, there was challenge when my dyer passed away. So all the women pitched in saying we will do the dyeing, or when we don't have someone, some have some health issue and they're not coming. So people pitch in saying, oh, we will do it. So don't worry. So earlier it had to be figured out. Now I don't have to figure out. Things happen with their pace. What I've realized in all these years is unless you don't show the results, no one want to be part of it. When I am selling a sari, it's not just that I want the customer to buy the sari. I want the customer to know what is the product all about. So basically ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ 2 ಪಲ್ಲು ಬರುತ್ತೆ, 2 ಕಡೆ ಹಾಕೋಬಹುದು. ಇದು 10th centuryಯಲ್ಲಿ ಲಿಂಗಾಯತ್ ಜನ ಹಾಕೋತಿದ್ರು. Why it was made, how many days it takes to make, and if they are buying, I give them all the details, history wise or the fabric wise, so that they treasure it. They can give it to the next generation. ಇದು ಒಂದು ಸೀರೆನಾ ಇದನ್ನು ರಿವರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಹಿಂಗೆ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಒನ್ ಮೋರ್ ಪೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಾರಿ ಆ್ಯಡೆಡ್ ಟು ಯುವರ್ ವಾರ್ಡ್ರೋಬ್. That's not the thing I am only looking at. So I want to educate people, and they should respect and take culturally pride in what they are wearing.